My name is Dr. Kevin Pecca. I wanted to make a podcast that exposes people to the true miracles of life and health. All the guests on this show have been specially picked because they bring something positive to the world. They have some of the most amazing and inspiring life stories. These people have a passion for living, healing, and leaving the world better than they found it. There is something inside these people that made them keep fighting through all the tough times, even when people told them it was not possible. They carried on and made their lives beautiful again. And now they are sharing their experiences with the world. This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. Everything in our world is energy. If you break down atoms down to the smallest form, their particles are vibrating and emitting energy. As human beings, we are made of the same energy. Your feelings and thoughts control your energy vibration. Positive thoughts turn into positive energy, which will then attract positive people and positive circumstances into your life. If you have negative thoughts, it will attract negative people and negative circumstances into your life. The secret is to be and feel happy right now. You can attract anything in this world that you want if your intentions are pure and you are vibrating at your highest frequency. This is also known as the law of attraction. I met Amena Melody in a Trader Joe's parking lot a couple years ago. She was a beautiful blonde gal, locked out of her car, and I was going to the grocery store. I told myself if this girl is still here when I come outside, I will strike up a conversation with her. Sure enough, when I walked outside, she was still there. So we started talking, and after that day, I had the good fortune of getting to know her really well over the next year. She completely changed my outlook on what I thought was possible in life, because she is such a beautiful spirit and attracts everything she wants. She's also speaking beautiful things into this world constantly. She travels any chance she gets. She's a songwriter, a singer, musician, and she is going to school right now to learn more about how she can change the education system for youths. Amena is one of my favorite people to talk to. She has an incredible life story. And today we're going to have an amazing episode. Please welcome Amena Melody.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Honored.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that day was terrible at the Trader Joe's parking lot. I was like damsel in distress. I had all of my groceries, got to my car, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
Honestly, I had no idea what you were doing.
Yeah, you didn't.
I pulled up and you were just sitting in your hood, and I was like, what is this girl doing? Just sitting there like this.
Just
and then
hanging
so
out.
I just went away. I thought you were with your friends, too. I honestly had no idea what you were doing.
I was waiting for an hour and a half with all of my groceries just sitting there for some shady locksmith.
Yeah.
But you know what? I did tell myself, because anytime I've had plenty of car trouble, but I did tell myself in that moment, I was like, something cool always happens when I have car trouble. Like, I'm going to meet somebody.
Really?
Yeah, I was totally expecting it. And like, in a way, positive.
In a way.
Yes, in a way, but there's still like that reality that you're faced with where you're like, oh my God, it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met you.
Yeah, that was great.
I know.
So, Amena, where are you from?
So originally I am from Houston, Texas, / Austin. Went to high school in Austin, so I'm Texas baby, Southern gal.
Texas baby. There you go. And please tell everybody how many siblings you have.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to hear them? And I'll call them all out and everyone can count as I call them out really quickly.
Rapid fire.
Okay. Paul, Regina, Ginger, Aaron, Faith, Evie, Mary, Amy, Amena, Mercy, John, Miracle. There you go. There's 12 of us.
Oh, I thought there was 15.
Well, 15 including parents.
Right, very true.
Yeah.
That's like that scene in Good Will Hunting. You ever see it? When he's rattling off all his... Tommy, Timmy, Terry.
That's how my mom sounded when she was calling our names out. She could never get it right.
So you guys had a pretty awesome, interesting upbringing too. You guys traveled around, right, a lot? Yeah,
crazy and very unconventional was my upbringing. I think the Von Trapp family singers is similar, like cheaper by the dozen. So my parents, they started out like just the two of them singing and traveling. They were a part of an interesting group during like the free love 60s time. And through that, they kind of started having tons of kids. Lots of them, and kid by kid, we joined the bandwagon for singing, and so yeah, we did a TV show. It was a lot in religious light.
What kind of TV show was it?
It was for kids, and so it was like we would sing. I'm so embarrassed of it, actually, to this day. Like, I don't ever want anyone to find out.
I need to see an episode of that.
All right, we can set aside. That's on another episode. But yeah, so started out kind of just doing all of that and doing singing and in a religious light for them, but like it's always been a big part of me. And so I think that my upbringing with the traveling and the moving has brought on a lot of this like adventure spirit that I carry with me.
And quick question for you. Were you like just singing for as long as you can remember?
Oh,
Playing
yeah.
instruments, singing? Yeah, just
I
born with
didn't,
it?
instruments didn't start until I decided I was like, I need to learn an instrument. I was almost forced to learn piano and I didn't like it. My teacher would swap my hands when I messed up and it was just like, it wasn't a good experience, but singing, I don't think I don't think that there's ever been a time where I wasn't singing. There's a part, it was like you grow up, you eat breakfast. That's what we did. You wake up and you sing every day.
You going to sing us a little number today or what?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I will put you right over to my SoundCloud though.
There you go. We'll do that a little later.
Yeah, so totally different. And I think that's one of the things like I think we've talked about this whole upbringing with, I don't know to what extent, but like my parents and how I was raised and all of that.
Right.
I think it's so important. I think it's everybody's story. It's like your upbringing. That's what shapes you.
Oh.
And so
Everybody's got a great story.
everybody's
got a great, yeah.
I agree. So yeah.
So you guys were doing the show, traveling around, and then, so you went to regular high school though, right? Like in Houston, Texas?
Like
or
seven
Austin?
different high schools.
7?
I homeschooled. So, and not for high school, but like I remember I was homeschooled, did quite a few different private schools. We did too much moving around. But yeah, jumping from school to school, I did homeschool. So in that, I did 2 grades in a year. It's like this crazy go at your own pace homeschool. And so I was like in team with this other girl and I'm like, I'm going to do more school than you this year. It was like when I was in 4th grade. And so with that, I did 2 grades in a year and I graduated when I was 15, turning 16 because of that. And so
Graduated high school?
Yeah, so my birthday's in June, so I had a birthday like the next month after I graduated. But yeah, school was never like, I didn't do the whole like, oh, I have the elementary to junior high to high school. I didn't stay.
Yeah.
Too many. Lots of schools. Lots of people though.
So you're 15 or 16, you're done with high school, and then so what's next?
Well, so this ties back into like my upbringing. And so I moved out of the house at 15 years old. And it was kind of like not in a good way with my parents. It was kind of fighting for like, I've always been very, I guess, headstrong in the things that I believe in. And with religion and my upbringing, it was very much so forced on us. It wasn't a choice. Like you had to believe. And if you didn't, then here's the door kind of thing. And
so that being forced on you, did you accept it or were you like, fuck this, like, I don't believe in this right now?
That was the fuck this part. It was like, at that age, I'm being asked to go and perform, and keep doing the singing as my parents had these engagements. And I was like, I don't believe in this. Like, I don't want to memorize the Bible. I don't want to do any of this. This is not authentic to me. It feels like a show. And so that wasn't very well understood or taken by my parents. And so in that, I left home and I lived with some of my older siblings, like sisters, and then moved to Austin. Actually, I was already in Austin at that time, just graduating, and ended up getting an apartment as soon as I turned 18. And then it was party time. I could do whatever I wanted, It was like
absolutely
strict upbringing, and I definitely had many good times. Tried college during that time, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I was. I had taken some really dramatic steps to kind of try to find that. And so that was like, it was a party stage. I think a lot of people need to let it out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't even matter if you come from a strict background. I think that everyone's got something they need to go and figure out.
Oh, so absolutely.
Had a few years of that. And then started to kind of wind down and get the repercussions of my decisions in life. And that's when I went home and I made amends with my family. And that was like the start, I would say, of everything that I'm doing now and everything that I've done that's led up to now.
Were you talking to your family in that 2-year span where you moved out to Austin, or just no communication, or your parents at least?
Parents, no. I think we might have talked here and there, but there was no relationship. I had older siblings, of course, like there's 12 of us, and so a lot of them had kind of faced maybe even harder than what I did, and so they understood, and I kept contact with them, but it was kind of cut off. And so that was big. That was so huge. It was like fighting my pride and saying like, I just knew that it was what I needed to do. And it was a very hard year. But that's when I picked up guitar. That's when like I found a love for working out. It's when I started to dig deep and find myself. And it wasn't until after I kind of built that mend with my parents. It was that thing that was kind of
just blocking you.
There was no harmony, you know. Life was like you can't move on with that unforgiveness. And so from there life started to get really interesting.
So are you still in Austin at this time?
So this is in Houston, Texas. I have a lot of family in Austin, but parents are in Houston. And you know what? I spent so much time alone in that point. And it was almost like a spiritual angst. And when you're very confused spiritually, and I feel like that's sometimes worse than abuse or going through, like it's a very internal struggle. And so I had to deal with that with my own beliefs and going home and standing up to my parents, but in a very, like, in a way that we could get along. And in that time, I spent so much time alone, writing and reading and playing music and, like, just figuring out, like, who am I? What do I like to do? Kind of almost going back to, like, childlike discovery of who I was.
Yeah. I think everybody should definitely spend an extended period of time by themselves, alone. Yeah. You really do find yourself.
And I don't think that ever ends. Like, that period of being alone, I still need it.
Yeah.
I have to have it. So
it's good for everybody.
No, it is good. So, I guess, like, I ended up in San Francisco. How did that happen?
That was also a rough period too, right?
Yeah, San Francisco was a ride.
In the beginning, when you first got here? That's a wild story. Please go into that. How much money did you go out to San Francisco with? This is what baffles me, how you made this work. It is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard.
Well, all of this that I'm saying is like leading up to that ability to jump like that, because I just got to a place where I'm like, I have this one life, and I'm looking around, and I'm 20 at that time, and people are getting married, and like I'm just like, this is not the life I want. The 9 to 5, like graduating from college, I don't want that, and there's so much more. I'm unfulfilled. And so I decided all within a month that I was going to sell. Like, I had an apartment at that time. I'd gotten in a really bad accident on the freeway and just kind of left with like, what am I doing here? Like, and what is this going to look like 5 years from now?
What kind of accident?
So I got T-boned in the intersection of a feeder road freeway. And that was insane. Like, it was a really bad day. It was Super Bowl Sunday. Driving, and I'm feeling just in my mind, I'm just like, you know what? There's got to be more to life than this. I'm over it. I don't feel like I'm living in any potential or working towards it. And just a complete, like, it felt really bad that day. And I remember I pulled up to a light, and there was this homeless guy with a sign. It's like, anything helps. And I remember telling myself, I'm like, you know what? The real me would, like, if I didn't feel this bad, I would just roll my window down and I would help this guy. And in that moment, I immediately rolled my window down, and I'd tell this guy, like, everything that I felt like I needed to hear in that moment. And just kind of, I didn't have a lot of cash on me, but gave it to him. I'd pull forward, take a left, and then boom, I'm hit. And it's amazing. That was a day that I could have died for sure. The car that was involved was completely totaled. Everyone was fine. I walked out with like a little knee bruise. It was an insane experience. And I think after that, kind of just like those kind of experiences really give you the appreciation for like how fragile life is. And
oh, absolutely.
That kind of, I think that was a little fire under me. So after that, I think a week after that accident, I started calling girlfriends over to my apartment. And I was like, take whatever you want. It's my closet. Like, you can have it. I'm only taking, the plan was to take one suitcase, but it turned to 2. But I was like, I'm only taking a suitcase. Like, you guys empty it out. Didn't sell anything. Like, I wanted to give everything, and I wanted it to be kind of an investment in this new life. And I'm a firm believer, like, you got to give to receive. And so whatever area that was, I knew I was going to need some things when I landed. So I was like, I'm giving everything. And then left from Houston.
That's a great thing that you said that, because that's like one of like the universal laws right there. A lot of people just want to like receive, and they ask for it, but they're not giving anything in return. And in order to receive anything, you have to give. And the more you give, the more you receive. It's a very simple concept, but people overlook that a lot. Yep. Like, if you're giving more than you're receiving, there's no choice, but you're going to get more back. It's a natural law. And
it's kind of a scary thing, too, to do. Like, I'll just say that. It's like, it's not easy to just keep giving, especially when... Right,
absolutely.
If you don't... I mean, that mentality of wanting to keep, we all have it. It's, like, protective. Yeah. But it's kind of when you break through that, you start to realize everything's flowing at you. Like, I don't know, everything we need, we already have. We just have to put it out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's $700, 2 suitcases, and a guitar. And you know what? The thing that I was worried about the most is crazy, but the thing I was worried about the most is when I get to San Francisco, how am I going to lug all this stuff around? It's like too much for a girl to be carrying, 2 suitcases and like a hard case guitar. And that was my biggest worry, like for the trip. I just remember that being a thing.
And where were you going to live?
So I had a sister that was there. At the time, she really needed someone, but she was neither here nor there, really, and at that time in her life, kind of dealing with their own things. And so I had a place to live for a month. And so I knew, I was like, but I had no idea San Francisco was the most expensive city.
Yeah. It's more expensive than New York now.
And so I found that out really quick when I got there. But
that's interesting too, because if you did know that, it might have changed your thought process in going there. You just did it.
And I think that that's something that I would, and like, if I could tell anybody anything, is sometimes you just need to do it.
Yeah.
Stop Googling things and people and places. Like, seriously, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to have Google, but put that down and just go and experience it. And because, I mean, good and bad times are going to come regardless. But you're like, what are you setting your mind up for, when you already have an idea of what it's going to be? And so that's the exciting part about it. But yeah, so cool. Like, I landed at the airport and I didn't even have to think twice. I'm wearing an I Love New York sweatshirt. Chick walks up to me and she's like, "Are you from New York?" And I was like, "No, I actually just landed from Texas." Got to talk to her a little bit, and she's like, "Well, where are you headed?" And they ended up going in the same direction as me. I didn't even have to carry a piece of luggage to the door. Like, everything I was worried about,
they just came up to you? Strangers came up to you? And
I'm sitting here in my mind, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get a cart. I'm going to jump on the BART, which is the subway or whatever for San Francisco. Try to hold on. I'm thinking of how I'm going to do everything, and then that's my thing.
It just happens.
Everything you need will always, like, even the smallest little tiny worry, if you just keep going, what you need finds you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to jump and let the net appear. That's what I didn't realize I was doing, but I was. And so, you want me to tell you more about what I did in San Francisco?
Keep going. Okay. My favorite part hasn't happened yet, but I'll bring that up when it comes.
Okay. I wonder what that one is. Okay, so I'm there. I have like a month where I'm staying, and I told myself I was going to say yes to everything. Like, I'm not going to say no to going here and there. And I might have overdone it. Like, in San Francisco, there's always a million things to do, and it's really exciting to be there, but I really needed a job, and I knew that. And so I don't think that, like, you just walk through life and everything attaches itself to you when you need it. I think that you really got to go out there and put the effort out. And so I made finding a job my full-time job. And so I would sit and, like, I would network. I would sit at a coffee shop, 8 hours a day, like, and just shoot out resumes, like, making dollar bills fly.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, I remember you telling me about your job experience, and I feel like you went about it a different way than most people. You were just literally talking to every single person you could. Like, not like sending in applications, but literally just attracting people, like literally putting yourself out there and talking to literally anybody that was there. And I mean, go on, but like, I feel like that's a beautiful thing right there.
And that right there is, I've learned you can never stop doing that. Because that's when you get comfortable and you get stagnant, and like, there's always somebody to meet and there's always some connection to make, and it may not make sense for 5 years down the road, which has happened to me, but like, So I said yes to a birthday dinner. It's like a bunch of people that I didn't know. And while I'm sitting there, they were like, "Hey, we're looking for someone to join our interior design company." And like, these people are renowned in what they do. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I like interior design. I've always been into making things pretty. So
no experience though. No experience whatsoever. You had a knack for it, but no college training, anything.
It was so intimidating. That was the most intimidating interview I've ever had. Because we're at dinner and there's wine and food and it's a light experience. But then the next day I go and the owner is like, "I want to meet with you." I show up and it's the whole team. Like, and then me and the whole team, and I'm being interviewed by a team of like five people. And and they're all just, I mean, San Francisco, that's when I had to pump it up another level, because people are quick and it's like, don't waste time, be on your toes. And so, I got the job and I worked with them.
Are you living with your sister at this point, or were you living?
I was living with my sister.
Weren't you homeless at one point around there?
Yeah, so
not homeless, but like just like
never homeless. I mean, I was a nomad this whole time, you know, for the most part. So yeah, that month was coming to an end. The room that I was staying in, a girl, she traveled. She wrote for a magazine. She was traveling. She's coming back, and so I had to like hurry up. And if anybody knows anything about San Francisco that's listening, it's crazy when it comes to housing, and it's really hard to find, and you'll pay like $1,000 for a closet. So I moved into a hostel, and I lived in a hostel for a couple of months until finding another place, and that was insane. I lived in a hostel called the El Capitan on Mission Street. It was like in the middle of everything. I think it was a brothel at some point.
Wow.
But yeah, that was an insane experience. And I went on to I kept it moving, I kept it going. I think San Francisco really taught me so much about myself, and it let me lay down a lot of insecurities. It's a beautiful place for that because you can go and you're just oversaturated. Everything is in your face, the raw reality of everything. Like you walk by someone shooting up heroin, and then, you know, the next second you're like in stroller mom town in Noe Valley. Like it's everything, and it's really, really great for you to figure out who you are, because then on top of that, you're pressed with who everyone else is. It's a very strong, expressive, at that time, it was a very strong, expressive city. So I found a love for people there. I moved into the Tenderloin, and it was cheap. Like that's cheap. I paid $1,000 a month to live in the Tenderloin, but it's not the prettiest place. And so I don't know, I just had a heart for people while I was there, and I would make pancakes and hot chocolate and go out and meet the locals. They would call me Snowflake in the Tenderloin because it's very odd at that point for me to be walking those streets. And so it's kind of scary. Like you walk down and you're like, they're calling out every drug that you can think of, like offering it to you. And I mean, it's like verbally in your face. And you're like, man. So when I first moved there, I went down to the market. The corner market guys are always my favorites. Like, always made friends with them. And I was like, what does everybody in this area like? I want to just give it to them. So what do they like? And he just like points to the 25-cent Twinkies and like, I don't even know the name of all of these things. But anyways, like those oatmeal cream pies, delicious. And I just grabbed a bunch of them and I put them on the counter, and I was like, I'll take them all. And just went out and I was like, hey, you know, I'm Amena and I just moved in. I just want to say hi. Like, it's good to be in your neighborhood. And I think that really helped. Tenderloin is kind of intimidating otherwise. And so, yeah. Especially for a little white girl like yourself. How tall are you? You know what? I'm 5'2", but 5'2", walking around the Tenderloin. Yeah, I'm a firecracker 5'2". Yep. Yeah. So how long were you over there for in the Tenderloin? About close to a year. Okay, and the interior design is going well? You still with them? Yeah, so I worked in interior design. The company began to split at that time, and so kind of became like, this happens, but it became like either this or that. And so from that job, I went on to, I worked an in-between job. I worked as a bartender server, and then I started to be like, what am I doing? Like, I really love doing events. I love, like, this is the city to create things. And so I just decided to start doing day of event coordinating, and I opened, like, I just started doing cold outreach, like using Craigslist and all kinds of, like, I landed a wedding. I'd never done it before. And it's like day of event coordinating for a wedding. And so that's when, like, I guess I started my own business. Just won a wedding. I had no idea what I was doing. I recruited all of my friends for that first wedding. I was like, all right, so I need servers, I need bartenders, like I need to make this day happen. I need a caterer. It was a shit show. That day was like, man, it was incredible. Yeah. We did that. It was amazing. But yes, I started doing that instead. And it's kind of a transition. There was a little bit of time in between that. But yeah, so I started doing day of event coordinating, started doing weddings a lot, actually. So I would just jump in and I guess I wouldn't say I had a business module, but like figured out how to type up contracts and just kind of Googled everything and made it happen, and really loved doing that. Well, yeah, you had an amazing opportunity and you just said yes, and you figured out how to do it later. Yeah. Like, I think that's just, I feel like most people should do that. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Just say yes, and the rest will take care of itself. Say yes. Like, you can't, I don't know. There's like that point where you're just going to stop growing. If you're not uncomfortable, it's like working out. It's like if you're not pushing yourself past the limit, you're not growing any muscle. And like same thing with life. It's just like, if we're comfortable, that's great. We might have a few less wrinkles later or something. I don't know. But like at the same time, like where are we growing, you know, into who we are? And I think that ties down to being satisfied. dissatisfaction is one of the major reasons for depression. And I think
absolutely.
if we're not working towards our potential or figuring out what that is for us, and that was for me, it was like, I'd rather die than feel like I'm not doing what I can in life. And so, cramming in experience.
So when did how'd you make your way down to Southern California?
So I just decided again, it's kind of the same thing. I was like, I've been here in San Francisco for a while, like tried to start to see like, what am I going to keep doing? I have a heart for adventure, and I'm like, I'm going to travel across the states. Like, I'm going to do something crazy. And like, I don't know, maybe I'll stop in Texas or maybe I'll keep going. And so this is a cool thing. I didn't have a car for 2 years when I was in San Francisco.
This is my favorite part.
Really? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's one of mine too.
Because I remember you were telling me this story. We were hanging out one day. You were telling me the story. And like, I look outside my window. I was like, because you said you went out to California with like $700 in your pocket. I was like, Amena, how do you have a car? And then you told me this, and I was like, no fucking way. This is unreal how this happened.
Yeah. So I had a friend that reached out to me and was like, I have this woman that she's got 3 boys, and she's looking for a babysitter. And it wasn't just a babysitter for a couple hours. It was like a night or 2. Like, no, it was only one night. I would remember if it was 2. Boys were crazy. And I'm just thinking, like, that's the last thing I want to do is try to take care of 3 rambunctious boys. And so I said no at first. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm like, man, I need to do it. And I'm going to tell her that I'm going to do it for free. Like, that's my punishment for saying no. Like, I'm doing it for free. Yeah. And so I was like, I'd like to do it for you, call her. So I end up going, and that was tough. Like, I don't know, I guess learned a lot about myself and young boys at that point. Like, they're crazy and they love to play. I think it was like 5, 7, and 8. It's super active.
Back to back to back.
Yeah, they tried to get me. They're like, this old girl doesn't know if we do this or that. But yeah, so it was a crazy night. Ended up going back, didn't think much of it. And then I get a call within the next week from this woman, and she's like, we've been thinking and we want to give you something, so can you meet with us? I was like, okay. I thought she was going to give me money for babysitting, and sure enough, it's a car. And I was just like, in that moment, unreal. I just cry. I'm crying, because this is, I lost my car when I left for San Francisco in that, my car was totaled in that accident. Right. And I, at that time, was biking from Daly City. I had an apartment in Daly City, which is outside of San Francisco. I was biking to the BART station, taking my bike like all the way down to the financial district, which is like a 45-minute, I don't know, it's a long ride, and then locking up my bike, walking a 15-minute walk up to my job, and then doing that again on the way home. And it was a lot. And so at that time, I'm like, I had been putting it out there for a car, probably for a lot longer.
How do you put things out there? I feel like there's a lot of different ways people put things out there, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And I think there is a better way to do it than most people think.
I think it's simple. It's ask, believe, receive for me. And, it starts with a thought of like the need, and I was just like, I really need a car. And so I asked for a car, and like whether that's a thought or it's a prayer, personally, people have to figure out what that means for them. And then you just believe that it's coming and put it down. I don't know. You don't obsess over it, because I believe this is my thing. What is meant for me will never miss me. And so it's coming, put it down, it's coming, believe it, and don't stop. Right. And that's not to say there's going to be reasons to doubt.
Right. I guess my point was, like, if someone's trying to attract money in their life, don't say, I want to get out of debt. Because that's like kind of like has a negative stigma attached to it, debt in itself. Yeah. You want to like attract wealth, you know? So like say things like, I expect to be rich. I expect to be wealthy. I'm connected to the universal supply of money, not I need to pay off my student loans. I need to get out of debt, because that just has like a negative stigma attached to it, where it could be there's a more positive way of going about it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because there's fear and worry attached, right, which is a big blocker of anything that's coming your way. And like the truth is that for each and every one of us, that good is trying to come our way. I really believe that our mindset about things and that fear and that worry can make it miss us.
Definitely.
Everything we need is out there. And so, no, you're right. Like coming from a place of, I think it's also gratitude too. Like, there was
100%.
a big part of me that was just like, I had a bike at that time, and I was just as I'm bike riding, I'm like, I'm so thank you for this bike. Like, instead of thinking like, man, I don't have a car, like I'm not able to drive, I'm tired in the morning, I'm 6:30 in the morning, I'm having a bike. Like, there could have been such a mentality of negativity, and
oh, absolutely.
Instead, I was like, you know what? And I did it on purpose. It wasn't like, oh, it's just how I feel. No, I didn't feel like that, but I was like, I made myself feel it, and like it becomes a part of life. And so gratitude, I think, is maybe it's the antidote for that fear and that worry that's blocking what we want, what we need. And so, yeah, I got a car, and that was so cool. I feel like things like that, like getting braces when I was a kid. And I don't know, there is a very beautiful, pure process to it. And it's really awesome when it happens. You're just like, wow, this is bigger than me.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
definitely.
How did I get to SoCal?
Yeah.
So I took off like unended road trip. The road trip was I didn't have some starting point. I wasn't just like, oh, I'm just going to drive. Like, I did set up some places to stop along the way. And so, yeah, like Arizona, I knew I was going to stop in San Diego. I knew I was going to stop in LA. And then I had like some family that was along the way in New Mexico. And so those were like little markers, but no big plans. And I stopped in LA first. And so this is cool. This is how I'm talking about, like, sometimes the people that you meet don't happen to come back for their purpose in your life until later. It's like, don't ever miss a day of meeting someone new when you have that chance, because you never know why they came or what they will do in your life. And so I remembered in San Francisco, I had worked a vocal audition for some producers that came in, and it was just I accepted a side job. I was always picking up work like when I could, and I remembered they lived in LA, and so I reached out and I was like, hey, so I'm coming through, I'll be there, like we should meet. And so responded back, and I ended up meeting with these people in Huntington Beach. This is where I met Kevin, and I ended up getting offered a job to stay and work for this record label, production company. And it was everything to do with music. Just like, I didn't expect it, but I was open to it happening. And I ended up flying home back to Texas to visit for a month, and then left my car in SoCal and then started working with them. And that was intense. It was amazing. Like, all of a sudden my life is going like 100 miles an hour and doing what I love and really being exposed to the industry. We did a TV show, and we did a lot of studio work. I got to work one-on-one as a vocal coach for some of the kids. And yeah, it was that's one of my favorite jobs ever.
Was this where you met, I forget the guys, he's one of the most famous producers. He worked with the Beatles and everything. Was this where you met that guy?
Don Grayson, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful how these things set themselves up. Like, we ended up working with him. He collaborated with us on quite a few different things, working with artists. He was a hot commodity, so it was really cool to be around him and like be on a first name basis. He's the coolest guy, Don Grayson. I love that guy. But yeah, so it's like a lot of traveling, a lot of movement, and I'm so thankful for that time. It was incredible, and really kind of got me to think clearly on like the whole music aspect and what the industry is doing with it versus like what I'm willing to do and how to keep it authentic for myself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was like Crash Course 101 on being genuine and being an artist.
Yeah. So not only are you going through all this at this time, but if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But like, your dad was also fighting something at this time too, right?
Yeah. So my dad got diagnosed with cancer, B-cell lymphoma. So it's like he had cancer in his bones, and we found out this is a little bit later, but it was definitely like, it was rough. It was rough for my family, and it brought up a lot of like, oh geez, like there's so much, that I want to say to my dad. I think when we have these times where loved ones close to us might go, you just like put your head in a whole different space. And so, yeah, that was really tough. I think that we had met around that time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your family a little bit in disarray still at this point? Did it like bring everybody together? And
yeah, it's beautiful how it's like everybody's all of a sudden ready to talk, and it's like, it just kind of puts that pressure on things. It's like, well, if this is the last thing that I have to say. And, there's within my family, my mom and my dad, they did the best that they could with what they knew and what they had. And in that, there's always, I love them so much, but there was always room for things to go wrong, and they did. And so family kind of got divided over the forceful things that my parents did.
I remember you told me 4 or 5 of your siblings just like left at once, right?
Yeah.
You ran into them at the end of the day?
Yeah. I was always the kid that kept my mouth shut about everything. Like I just observed and I didn't tell. I wasn't a tattletale. But that day, I'm like up in this loft and looking down, and 4 of my older siblings were like packing up to run away together. And I knew, like, as young as I was, I'm like looking down, I just knew that it was what they were supposed to do, you know?
Really?
And yeah, totally. And that was the freedom that they found, and everyone's doing so well now.
What did they say to you when they were leaving?
They didn't know that I was there. I was really, I kept quiet,
wow.
And I didn't, yeah, I was like, so it's a loft bed, so they're underneath the loft area of the bed, and I'm like looking down. But yeah, you know what, like tying that into where my family is at now, it's so beautiful. It's like this beautiful expression of strong individuals, all like rising up out of something that was chaos and hurtful and not okay at many points in time, but like rising up and just being, I mean, if you look at my siblings, like we have the best time together when we get together for Christmas, because everyone's just like, we stepped up to the plate of life.
There's like 10 guitars going around, everybody's singing.
And we wake up singing.
I've seen the videos.
It's cool. I mean, music is a big part. Music is still a huge part, and I'm thankful to be able to say that. I'm glad it didn't go away just because we were forced to do it growing up.
I've been crushing the harmonica lately.
No!
Crushing.
What's the song of choice?
Well, I play a mean Amazing Grace.
No way.
If anybody asks me to play something, that's my go-to.
Do you do like the little wah, 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 wah? Like,
oh, absolutely. You have to.
Man.
Absolutely.
You and your harmonica, it was a piece of you for a little bit there.
Oh, absolutely. I feel awful for my roommate, Kevin Fisher, and Alex Muka, who had to put up with that at like midnight.
First thing in the morning. I think you slept with your pillow, right?
Yeah. Awful. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. You can come to our family gatherings anytime. You just got to bring the harmonica.
Absolutely. It's the only thing I got going for me in that department. Yeah, so I wanted to tell you what my favorite thing about you is. And I don't know if you know it or not, but you have this amazing gift where you just speak beauty into people. You make people feel like they can do anything. And it's not like a fake, like, oh, you're so, like, it's from the heart. It's genuine. So my uncle gave me a guitar. He passed away when I was in 3rd grade. He gave me his guitar. It was like rotting in the corner of my room for like 13 years, however long it was. And then like, I think you came over one day, you're like, oh, is that a guitar? And I was like, yeah, but I can't play it for anything. And you're like, pick it up. And I like just started strumming. You're like, oh my God, you're so good. I'm like, what is this girl talking about? I am awful. And just like that little boost of confidence made me start picking it up again. You show me some things, and now I'm so awful at it, but...
No, you're a boss. Are you kidding? Hard on yourself, but good.
I've heard 3 people, and not just the guitar thing, it's with everything, but like, even like, I think you were talking to my roommate Alex Muka one time, and you left, and he's like, dude, she made me feel like I could actually be a writer. And I was like, well, what did she say to you? I was like, she's like, I don't really know, but like, she just inspired me to feel like that I could actually do this. And Timmy said the same thing. So
wow.
When did you start doing that? Are you conscious of that? Like, when you just, like, you literally have no filter when it comes to just speaking beauty into people. You just say it. Have you always been like that? Because it's very profound.
No, I don't think so, but...
Do you know you do that?
I can say this. I know that I have a huge driving desire daily to pull the greatness out of people. And like, not in a way that I'm forcing it, but I feel like people really can do whatever they want. And I love seeing that potential and when people are living and walking in it. And I think that if I could pinpoint maybe when this started, it would be me coming to a place of rebuilding my life and coming from something that was not ideal, like my basis of starting, and turning it into something beautiful and realizing like, wow, I really can teach myself how to play guitar. I really can write a song. I really can get up and change my life. You know, I can change my location. I really can meet cool people. And in that, I think I began to realize that there was more in me. And so maybe that's when it started. But for me, it's really important to not just step up to someone and give them words, but come with something authentic and make them feel something. Make them feel like, and I don't really care if people remember the words that I say. I probably talk way too much. But like, I mean, truth. And like, you can bring the whole woman
I
thing
disagree.
into that, but maybe I do, maybe I don't, but there's that thing that you can make someone feel that they don't forget.
Right. And you don't even have to say it. You almost say it just by looking at somebody. Like, people can feel it more than anything. And I think that's what goes a long way with you. Because you feel your presence when you're having a conversation with you. You radiate it.
I guess whatever it is, like, that led up to those conversations, it wasn't something that I just, like, decided one day. And then it was a lot of time and a lot of protecting my time. Instead of doing what was fun and ideal and going out while everyone's like going to the clubs, I'm sitting at home and I'm like, what's going to grow me spiritually? What's going to grow me, like, writing and, like, doing the things that nobody wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think that I still do that. I think that as we begin to live in that bigger life and that bigger mindset and that positive place in life, it's not going to keep happening unless you get really protective over that time and over what fuels that kind of mindset.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a million things that do it for me. Like, I know eating right is a big part. Working out is a big part. Like, spending time alone. For me, music and writing. Like, we've each got our own, like, thing, but
right.
It's not always the ideal, fun thing to be doing. So I think leading up to, like, having that presence, and I think it's also a sensitivity that I feel when I'm in the presence of someone else. Like, I'm sensitive to their greatness. I'm sensitive to, and I like asking the hard questions. Like, even if I don't feel it, I'm like, what do you love? We all want to talk to each other and be like, so what do you do for a living? And like, how old are you? And this and that. And it's like,
I hate that question.
I'm not into those questions because
so like, what do you do?
Yeah. Like, so what do you do? It's like, I don't know. And I hate it when people ask me those questions. And I've always hated when people are like, how old are you? Like, we put these labels on things, but I instead like to pose the hard question, like, what do you love? And what are you doing now to do that? And to make that your reality. And it's amazing because I feel like people are very attracted to that question once you get in there. It's amazing that you'll hear, like, there's a guy that's maybe working as a tech engineer, I don't know, something, and he's like, I really love coffee and I want to. It'll be like the opposite of what they're doing, and they're almost afraid to talk about it because it sounds so silly, but like, their eyes light up and they're like, oh my God, I'm passionate.
I love when people get animated about that stuff.
Yes.
Like what they love, like, and you can't get there by like, what do you do? It's just like a run through the mill question, just like, oh, I do this, and then they ask you what you do, and then the conversation is pretty much dead after that.
I know, I agree. Because you did the same for me as well, and this is why I was like, man, I'm so meant to have met Kevin. And I'll always feel that. It's just because when you meet someone that has a different perspective in life. You're not living in the pressure of your past or like weighed down by your circumstances. You have this unlimited mindset that is like, I can and I will. And like, I don't know. I think that we attracted that in each other. And that's probably a big reason why we met. But like, you also carried that. I think that there might be, maybe we could crack down the similarities of like what we believe really works towards that, and maybe there's an answer within that. But like, I think that there's something similar to be said about you and the way that you give people that feeling of can do.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, I don't really believe in coincidences anymore. I mean, think about how much stuff had to happen for us to meet on like a Saturday night, 8 o'clock at Trader Joe's. I never go to Trader Joe's on Saturday night, ever.
You know what had to happen? I had to get locked out of my car.
You got locked out of your car. Like, there's so many circumstances that need to go right for that to happen, and it did. Yeah. So it's just like, if you just made one extra turn in your car that day, if you made a right instead of a left, it's a completely different day. So I'm a firm believer that everything is in line according, like, it's all part of the plan. This is what's meant to be, and a lot of people fight that. Just accept that you are meant to be where you are supposed to be. Accept it, and I think a lot of people's lives will change if they can just accept the situation they're in. Yeah, and it allows you to relax. Like, you can relax through life. People are walking around with so much anxiety and worry and just like, what am I going to do about this? And the money this, and like the opportunity this. And then I'm like, if you actually believe that everything is coming to you, life is going as planned, you're on that path and it's taking you to where you need to go, everything's fine, the people will come, you can walk into life and relax about everything.
no matter the circumstances.
You can create your own world.
You really can.
You can literally create, attract everything you want in this life. And if you don't believe that, it's not going to happen for you because it's a belief system. Like if you say, oh, the law of attraction is bullshit, it's going to be bullshit for you. Yep. You're not going to attract the right people. But if you have a firm belief that it's going to happen, then it's like if you believe you can do something or you can't do it, you're right.
Yeah.
If you believe you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can't.
You're right. Either way. Like, this is the day that I was like, man, this guy is on point. I walk into your space and you have this collage all over the wall of like just positive affirmation. And like, I don't know. I remember I was like, can I take a picture of this? It was like, I think it was the first time I'd ever come over. I was like, I need a picture of this. This is incredible. But like,
that was my wallpaper.
It was your wallpaper. It was, but it was like your wallpaper was all of these quotes and sayings that made you like get into that space of I can do this, I will do this, and I will create the life that I want to live. And what that was for you is like you wanted to change the lives of others and heal people through your chiropractic and, you know, what you were working for at that time. And you've done it, you know, and you are still. But like, okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Like, what does a day look like for you inside of that positive life, inside of that law of attraction type 24 hours, like practically?
Well, so I notice I have the best days. Like, you know, some days you wake up and you have this like overwhelming feeling of just gratitude to be alive. You're just like, wow, this is just going to be a beautiful day. And I feel like when you start your day, just being thankful for the people in your life, what you have, this feeling overcomes you and you just have a better day. I have my best days. I don't do it every day. But when I do, when I'm conscious, like, oh, thank you for my mom, my family, my friends and everything. And like, be very specific about it. Don't just do what I just did. Like, I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for like, pick people out. Like, I'm thankful for my best friend. I'm thankful for my cousin Tim. People like that. It's the more specific you are, the more clarity you have, the more power you have. So I guess it's funny because I'll have days where I'm completely in tune with everything and it's just one good thing after the other. But if I miss my alarm, I wake up rushed, my whole day is completely different. I'm rushing to work. You don't attract the things you don't want it to happen. And if you just relax, take a breath, accept where you are, attract those good things, slow everything down. That was one of the big things for me. I was always in a rush. I couldn't relax. I couldn't do anything. Once I started being conscious and just slowing everything down and trying to let the world come to me, not me going after the world, that's when everything shifted for me.
That's huge what you just said. Letting the world come to you. And I say this is something that has helped me like so much. And I think I've told you about it, but it's like the open hand method. And I walk through life like that. And this is not like, I don't want it to be like confused for laziness and not like trying, because that's a whole nother, that effort that you put into life is everything. But as far as what's coming and what's going in your life, walking through life with the open hand, not grabbing onto things and being like, oh my God, don't leave. Like, this is mine. It's mine. Like, I can't let go of it. Or like, on the other hand, pushing things away. We all do that. It's almost in us to push and pull. It's like this push and pull in life. But it's so beautiful. Like when it comes, let it come, let it stay. If it goes, let it go. It's all good. Either way, everything is working together for good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what really changed? One little thing made a huge difference in my life. You know when people, they ask to do things for you, like, can I get you a cup of coffee? Can I get you a water? Can I come over and do this? Can I help you with something around the house? I used to always say no. Like, no, I'm good, I got it. I'll do it myself, like, because I want to do this, I'm going to do it right. And like I read something one day, and you're literally, when you do that, when you push people away like that, you're shutting down the universal flow of giving and receiving. Yeah, that's that person's opportunity to give you something, to give. And then when you do that, you shut that off. So you shut off your receiving and you shut off your giving, and the cycle stops. Yep. So literally, if I go into somebody's house and they say, oh, can I offer you a plate of food? I always say yes. A drink, I always say yes, because unconsciously, when you say no, you're shutting that person down. And who knows what you're making them feel, but like that was their opportunity to give you something and you just shut them down. So just don't say yes to everything, but like be conscious of, just say yes to more. If it's little things like that, that's only going to help you. And it's the little things you do right that make a big difference. And I feel like that's a huge part of the giving and receiving, just letting other people help you. Yeah. Because a lot of people want to do everything by themselves, but if you let people help you, you're not
pushing things away. You know,
it brings more to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're receiving. And I love how you say, like, the little things, that they matter so much. Like, how you do anything is how you do everything, I think. And, like, as you're talking about, like, just getting into that space of being thankful, like, sometimes it's forced, Kevin, and, like, sometimes you don't feel like it. I would say this for me. I don't always feel like I'm overflowing with this passion and joy and happiness and flow for life. Like, I don't walk on clouds every day, but I will make myself smile, because there's always something to be grateful for. And I think that it's the most cliched thing to say, but it works. And when you start to focus, like, having a bad day, we all have those. And
oh, absolutely. You can't help it.
Yeah, you can't help it. It's going to come. And
do you feel a cycle? Do you feel like some sort of cycle? Like, you'll have the best couple days ever, and then you're just in a shit mood the next day, and there's nothing you did. I feel like there's a cycle to it, and you got to realize your own cycle, because it's not always going to be up. Even a positive mindset, you're still going to have a shit day. Just got to be conscious of it.
Everyone's doing it, you know. We're all, no matter who we are, the greatest of the great or the lowest of the low, whatever. But I think that you need the good and the bad together. Like, I couldn't sit here on this podcast and talk about anything happy if I didn't go through, years of tough stuff, you know? And it's like, maybe we can talk about that in a shorter time frame of these days going high and low. And, like, I think that it's really important to stay humble, you know, keep the ego down. And that's one thing that it does. But also, like, we don't know how beautiful things are. We don't know love without heartbreak. We don't know, you know, we aren't appreciating those beautiful flowing moments. And, like, I don't know. I think that being present, even with the bad days, and being present and not getting attached to, like, identifying with this bad day and being like, this bad day is my bad day. Just being present and, like, you know, just staying consistently joyous.
It's funny you say that, because obviously, like, I'm not complaining about my situation at all. It's just when my dad pretty much died right in front of me when I was 16, I had a rough go for 2 years, an awful 2 years. And then when I was 19, finally snapped out of it. It was like one of the best years of my life, because I was finally happy again. I was having a good time, and I wouldn't have been able to feel that happiness if it wasn't for, like, the extreme lows.
Exactly.
And then I got the concussion, and it sent me another 4 or 5 years, like, down the gutter. So, like, that time period from, like, 16 to 24 was very, very rough. And there was a lot of times where I didn't want to live anymore. And then when I finally got out of it, I can't explain to you, but I had such a joy for living, just waking up without a headache or blurred vision or brain fog. Just waking up, being healthy was the greatest gift I've ever gotten in my entire life. And so, like, I do wake up some days, I'm like, this is the most beautiful day ever. And I would have never gotten that unless all that shit didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing. It was all a blessing. And you can't see it in the shitstorm, but it all works out. It definitely all works out.
Can I ask you, when you were in that place, that bad place, like, do you feel like you were believing for better days? Like, do you feel like there was a part of you that was asking, believing, receiving, like, for better days? And
well, you know what it was?
Setting yourself into that.
I wasn't believing in better days. I was hoping for better days.
That's good.
There's a huge difference. I was literally on my knees every night. Please, God, let tomorrow be a good day. And every single day, nothing. And so, like, I kind of went in this on my first episode, but, like, I woke up one day and I was like, this is it. I'm going to fucking kill myself. I rolled out of bed. I was like, either kill me or get me better, because I cannot take this shit anymore. I can't take the pain. And so I went to, I was like at a Catholic university, and I went to a priest because I had no idea what else to do. I was hoping he would give me a blessing of some sort and I'd be fine. And then so I walk into this priest's office. He had a pack of cigarettes on the desk, and just like a very unconventional priest.
Awesome.
And I'm like, I'm telling him my story, and, like, midway through the story, he's like, whoa, Kevin, you're never going to get better if he's like, you can do all the hoping, praying, and wishing in the world, but if you don't get out there and do something about your situation, you're never going to get better. And I'm just like,
that's it. Yeah.
Holy shit. Hoping is one of the worst things ever, because there's no action. It's a good thing. It's not bad, but hoping alone will not get you better. You have to believe it.
That is so huge.
You have to take some faith, and you have to take action. And you're still going to run into a lot of speed bumps in that process, but you just got to keep going. And if you keep knocking on doors, one is going to open eventually. But I feel like people get very discouraged in the timing, because it doesn't happen according to them. Yeah. It happens according to when it's supposed to happen.
And I think that we can all look back and see, like, if that would have happened at a different time in my life, everybody could say it. Like, if it was at a different time, then I wouldn't have grabbed a hold of it, and I wouldn't have got it, or I wouldn't have made that move. Timing is a huge part. But what you said, like, right there about you were just hoping, like, you were hoping, and you thought that hope, like, that has been such a big part of turmoil for me, because I had to break out of this religious belief of, like, it's faith and everything's happening because it's going to come to you and it's going to land to you, and, like, God is going to drop some baby stork of love and life and happiness on your doorstep, and, like, just keep praying and keep and it's like this mentality that I was so conflicted about. I'm like, I am doing everything that I know how to do internally to, like, bring about this thing that I need, this happiness, this joy, this life, this non-depression about things I'm doing. And it's, man, like what you said, I'm like jumping up and down inside, because I'm like, that's it, exactly. And that's a huge breakthrough, I think, for a lot of people, is realizing you can hope, you can pray, you can do, like, whatever you're doing, but on the outside, like, you've really got to put it into action, and it's not just words. That's a huge part of getting out there. And for me, like, what I started doing is, like, doing the complete extreme opposite of how I was feeling on the inside, or what the problem was. Like, what if it was lethargy? Like, if I'm feeling, I'd just take it down to something very simple. Extreme opposite, I would make myself do one of the hardest workouts, and fighting it with the opposite of, like, you know, and we fight the negativity with something, like the bad thoughts with something extremely positive, but it's an action.
Definitely.
We can't miss that action. That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, Amena, what are you doing now? What are you going back to school for?
Personal development.
Love that.
I'm really good at moving and throwing myself into uncomfortable places. It's almost become normal for me, just like keeping the momentum going. And it's a little bit harder to stay in one place. And I think that mundane part really teaches a good structure, and it's stretching me in a huge way to be doing something, sometimes the same thing every day. I love it when life is diverse and unexpected, but when it's planned and it's routine, it's a little bit more difficult, but I think that both are really important. And so right now, that's something that I would say is important for me. I really believe in education and I believe in learning, but that's kind of what I want to do with my education eventually, is be able to take people into their passions, and, like, they can go into school with really knowing, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I love. There's
nothing taught in any elementary school, middle school. I had a leadership course in high school, but it was out of the book. I feel like you can't teach kids in that way.
No.
Especially that stuff. They got to feel it.
Yeah, you got to feel it, and you got to do it. You got to try it.
Yeah.
You got to be around people that are doing it and actually get the real of it. It was insane. I think it was in San Francisco. I did take some college courses while I was there in music classes, but we had to do some intro college thing, and we didn't look at what we love to do. We did a survey in class of the kind of lifestyle that we wanted to live. Do we want to live in a condo, and geographically where? We looked at what our expenses would be for our ideal life, and then looked at jobs and their salaries. And from there, we were told, well, you should get this kind of degree because it supports the lifestyle that you want to live, which I believe is so backwards, so wrong. It's a recipe for disaster. That Absolutely. Mentality, and I'm really passionate. Like, I don't know if you can see, I'm like getting fired up about it, but it's, if people were passionate about what they did, whether you love to do coffee or some people really love working on the mill, I don't know. That passion is what we need to make life beautiful. I don't know. Life and is
everybody's got it too.
And everybody's got it, but it's like, I feel really sensitive to that angst that people have over being unhappy, going to school, getting tons of dollars in debt, and then working at a restaurant with a degree, being like, I can't do this. Like, this is not, why did I do it? You know, right. And I feel like that's not setting yourself up for the best life possible, you know, and Definitely. Doing that. And so that's something that I know I'm made to do. I want to pull out the greatness in others, and I also want to give people a platform to discover that greatness, discover those passions, discover, you know, the things that make your life, you know?
I feel like a lot of people ask, how do I find that passion? How do I find that life purpose, what I'm supposed to do? And I don't think there's a great answer for that directly, but there is a definite, like, you're not going to get there if you're comfortable. Like you are 1,000% not going to find that if you're comfortable. A lot of people find it when they're rock bottom, when there's nowhere else to go but up. That's when you really discover who you are, what you're meant for, because you're not going to get it if you're just going through the motions. It's almost impossible. And
where do you go from that? Like, I agree. It does come in those times where there's no plan A, there's no plan B. You're like, what am I going to do? You know, and I think you hear a lot of stories of people that have been really successful. They were in a place where they were questioning everything in life and they had no idea why they were here. But it's like coming from a practical place, you can't really just jump into rock bottom. You can't just be like, okay, well, if that's what it takes for me to figure out what I'm here for, then let me just jump into rock bottom. But like,
exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But like practically, what does it mean to you to be uncomfortable and to test your strengths? It means to not be afraid to fail, to not be afraid to be embarrassed, to be in a crowd, to put yourself around people, like no more big fish, little pond kind of thing. Get out there, you know, and be the least of many. Find a way to be the least, be the lowest, like be the dumbest person in the room. Find those places, 'cause nobody wants to do that, and that's being uncomfortable. So many times where I stood in places, and I'm still doing it. I'm going to do it again today when we finish. But like, that's that uncomfortable, and that's those kinds of feelings that feel really bad. They bring you to a rock bottom place within you, and you're like, who am I? So I think that there's a lot of ingredients to the recipe for passion, but I think that uncomfortable factor is a huge one. Right. I agree.
Or just take a step back for like a week. Like throw yourself off the track for a week. Like if you're doing the same routine every day, if you remove yourself from that for a week, just sit by yourself, analyze all your thoughts, because your mind is probably going. It's not turning off. And when you sit down by yourself, analyze those thoughts, calm that voice down a little bit, then I think you start to put things in perspective. So yeah, you definitely don't have to be rock bottom, but remove yourself. I think travel is a great way to get you there too.
Huge. It's my favorite way. Like just going. I have a friend that I talked to recently. He just booked a one-way ticket to Asia, Thailand. He's been in finance for a long time, been doing the corporate world, ready to turn his life around, and he's taking active steps to do it. And so he's booked a ticket one way. I'm going to figure it out, and that's going to grow him so much. Like, I'm super stoked for that, but I'm huge on that, big on that. I'm over here doing I'm trying to do the opposite part of it, and I'm itching to travel. Like, I just want to go everywhere. But I appreciate that about you. You always bring in that passionate part to life, and you're super passionate about life. And you found that. I think you found it because of your struggle.
Definitely, 100%.
You're incredible.
So are you, Amena. So are you. Anything else you want to share here?
Yeah, I guess I would want to say, I don't think that the most important thing is, there's a couple, but gratitude, and also just making a decision to experience life, not just live through it.
Right.
Really decide
just pay the bills and
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, get out. And listen to Kevin's podcast every week, 2 times a
week. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really grateful for you. I'm thankful, super thankful.
Well, thank you for coming on. I have a great time talking to you every time.
I know. I feel like we can talk more.
Yeah. Maybe we'll bring you back once every 2 weeks.
Part 2.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well,
thank you so much, Amena, for coming on. So where are you at with the music right now?
I'm actually going into the studio after we get off this call.
Perfect.
I called a producer. Recently, I'm ready to do a music video for one of my songs. And someone had promised a music video. In the past, I worked with that production company. They're well, anytime you're ready. And so I called and I was if the offer still stands, I'm ready. And he's we're actually flying into Austin in a couple days. So that's the thing. You just gotta say yes.
Shocker.
You gotta say yes.
Shocker.
And you gotta be ready. I know. Say yes, be ready, and keep showing up. And so that's what I'm going to do today, and we'll see what happens. I have a lot to express as far as music, and I guess any musician would understand. It's when you don't do it often, you feel it, and it's in there, you got to let it out. And so I'm ready to do that. So
I see a bright future for you. Very bright future. Where can people listen to your music?
We can pop up a SoundCloud link. Would that work?
No, not right now, because this is just audio, but what is the link?
It is soundcloud.com/undocument/she-breathes. So the song is called She Breathes.
All right. When I post this podcast, we'll definitely post the link with that so people can check it out.
Yeah. there's more to come, so stay tuned.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Amena. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. My private practice is located in New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. If you have any additional questions about today's podcast, other episodes, or any questions about Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic in general, feel free to visit my website at drkevinpecca.com or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca. Hope you enjoyed the show. Cheers.